IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin, Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have a very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about learning about creating relationships. How do you connect with people? And understanding what are some of the best habits from some of the world's biggest speakers and coaches. We have a dear friend of mine, Gautam Ganglani, here with us on the podcast. Gautam, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you, Ashdin. An absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure. We've been planning to do this for a while, so happy that it's actually happening now.
Absolutely.
Gautam, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this entire space?
Fantastic. Well, first and foremost, I was born and brought up in London, UK. So that sort of was the foundational years of my education and upbringing. I then moved to Dubai, and where I lived again for about 20 years. There seemed to be some kind of 20-year cycle in my life because after those 20 years in Dubai, I started visiting India on a frequent basis from a week a month, 2 weeks a month. And over 3 years, it suddenly expanded to 3-4 months a year. And then I moved to India about 4 years back. So sort of the journey personally and professionally has been from London in terms of Europe, and then Dubai for the Middle East, and now more recently in the last few years, Mumbai. And as a business, it's actually this October is going to be completing 30 years.
Wow.
It's a father and son family business. So very grateful to my dad who started the business in October 1993. He left a previous family business, which was, a general business between West Africa and Europe, because he just had a real deep passion about learning. And he's read nonfiction books, been into affirmations, and really something that's had a profound difference on his life. And he said, to me, I want to do something which gives me a lot of, happiness and inner fulfillment. Let it be a business, but it should be something which, you enjoy and get excited every day. It's not a business just from the economic reasons. So he started this bookstore under the same name of Right Selection in October 93 in Dubai. And it was a self-help bookstore. In fact, it was on the front news of Gulf News tabloid, because there are many bookstores in Dubai.
Correct.
But mainly they were focused on fiction. This is a bookstore just dedicated to what we call self-help non-fiction books.
Niche,
really that niche, to help you become a better version of yourself personally, professionally. I joined Dad in 1995, and I wasn't a big reader. That's obviously changed over the years, but I was someone who loved audios. So in fact, in those days, I used to listen to the audiobooks and then watch videos from the same authors.
Those are those cassettes at
yes,
that point of time?
Back in the days, Simon Schuster, Earl Nightingale, Conan. So
Correct.
those actual audio tapes and video tapes, VHS audio video tapes, those years. And, that was where the business started from 93 to 2000. We helped over 200 companies build a learning resource center of non-fiction books.
Okay.
So that was sort of the aspiration. And we
So
did that.
these were libraries inside the companies
Inside the companies. Organizations come to us and said, we want to create a learning culture. So they themselves helped to build libraries within the company so that employees and team members could come and be encouraged to have cultivate a habit of reading.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was the initial years. 2000, we then said what next. Dad and me would be very frequent habit. One of our habits was taking a morning walk together. And we all said, what next? What new value can we bring? Books can do a certain level. And we said, how about we bring the authors of books for live events, How do we select that? And that's where we said, okay, the books that are doing well, there's an affinity to those books, to the content. And that's when from 2000 to 2010, we started bringing authors of the books that are doing well. And that became live events. So it became public seminars where people would come to attend those events on a variety of topics, And that's how we connected with great speakers who were authors. And then that led in 2010 to companies saying we want to sort of engage these speakers privately. So from a business of books, audios, videos, helping libraries, to then bringing the authors for live events, and then taking those live events into in-house sort of private, customized, curated event for like leadership offsites.
Correct.
Or conferences or annual meets. And then in the last 5 years, that led into executive coaching, especially in the virtual world, because in the virtual world, people were lonely, even more lonely at the top. We heard of being lonely at the top. Well, in the virtual world, people are even more lonely at home, not connecting with any of their team members. So they really were looking for a coach, someone with a helicopter aerial view and saying, how can I navigate the current challenges? Because there are a lot of new challenges. So coaching became a new part of the business. So from books to public events to private events to executive coaching, that's sort of the business journey of the last 30 years. And the pandemic prompted me to say, people say, when are you writing your book, Gautam? You're working with authors, speakers, coaching. When are you writing a book? And I said, what will I write about? They said, Gautam, you have great relationships with your customers, with your speakers, with authors, with interesting people. And that's what prompted me to write the book Breaking Bread, which is building meaningful relationships for long-lasting success. And that's really what was written in the pandemic and published and available online and offline.
Because you're one of the people that I completely admire in the way that you create your connections and you stay in touch with people. And which is why I wanted to understand, how do you maintain this headspace with so many different people and contacts and maintain that relationship going?
Actually, something I realized that in school itself is where it probably started.
Oh, wow.
Because every weekend, me and my friend Simon used to say, okay, what people come to us, what's the plan for the weekend? And we would organize where to go, which event to go to, or which movie to watch, or where to eat dinner. And it was just something we enjoyed doing. And Simon and me actually just enjoyed bringing people together. We said, it was a skill set of saying this date, this time, this venue, and people would then show up. If they didn't have any specific date, time, venue, people would just be busy in their own space. You have everyone's different personality. Introverts, you have extroverts. And this is something I realized when I reflect back. That's something that, my God, is something which came naturally, something I enjoyed doing. And that's something you always say, what's your sort of, when are you in your flow zone? And so that was probably a trigger. Having said that, building relationships is something I've enjoyed doing over these 30 years. In my book, I share about, having meals together. And, to me, meals is a space where, especially having meals at home, where I'd invite my clients with their partners, media, friends, professional friends, I would call them, home for dinner. Home is your most personal space, Ashdin.
Right.
If you bring someone into your home, it's dropping the barriers of formality. You provide a great home-cooked meal, you have a good quality conversations, and the relationships, as I said, professional friendships are built over a meal. There's an energy exchange over a meal. So that's really where that triggered the thought of building relationships. And I would consistently host dinners and bring like-minded people together. And like-hearted is what I say as well, because you bring quality people, they're on a high.
Yeah.
Just by the quality of conversation. They may meet for the first time at the end of the dinner, it's like, Gautam, I feel like, these people you've brought together, people I've known for years, just because there was sort of common interest. There was an interest to help. There was an interest to make a difference. There was interest to add value, to collaborate, an abundance mindset. So you sort of saw the like-minded people had common traits, common habits,
Common emotions.
Common
right?
emotions, yeah.
Wanting to connect in these aspects.
Absolutely.
This is interesting actually, because you see in today's work environment, there's this constant focus on saying, no, this is work and this is my personal life,
Right.
and they will never meet. And I've noticed that a lot of these come home, have dinner, sit, chill, let's get to know each other kind of dinners have reduced. I remember my parents doing a lot of them. And now that has reduced over a period of time. Have you noticed a trend like this taking place?
I guess I'm so focused in my flow and focused on the value that I can create. I may not have absorbed it, but I would say that I've not necessarily seen others curate it, in that sense. So there is probably room for reviving that or encouraging others. I mean, I take it back to even our workspace. One habit that we had, which I really enjoyed, was every Friday when we were in Dubai, or rather every Thursday then before the weekends, we would actually have a team of 8 people, and all 8 were different nationality. We had Sindhi, Punjabi, Gujarati, Filipino, British, Indian, and all different nationalities. In fact, so they all brought, the idea was everyone brings a meal from their culture, and we would break bread and share in eat each other's meals.
Nice.
So to me, I would look forward to that. And we found that was when I asked many of the team members until today if they're with us or not, I say, what is one thing that you really enjoyed about the culture of working with Right Selection? They said that weekly meal, every week we'd look forward to eating, if I'm Punjabi, I want to eat Sindhi food, eat Gujarati food. So we're sharing a meal together.
Correct.
And that is something which was priceless in building a meaningful relationships over a meal. And it's something that I would say is a great habit to have created.
I love this, sharing in each other's cultures.
Correct.
How do you create relationships? Like, are there steps? Are there techniques that you use?
To me, every form of communication that you do gives you an opportunity to build a relationship. And what I observe, I'm talking about, people think of relationship. I mentioned the meal example, but in my book, Breaking Bread, I refer to every opportunity of communication is a way to communicate with emotion, and emotion creates motion, and vice versa, motion creates emotion. And what I mean by that is when you communicate with content beyond just being very specific. So for example, when you send an email, someone says email, see you at 2 p.m. My email would say, hi Ashdin, looking forward to seeing you at 2 p.m. and exploring how we can add value and collaborate together. Warm regards, Gautam. Now, I just put a few extra adjectives and context. Now, when you read that, you're like, Gautam, looking forward to meeting me, exploring how we can add value, collaborate together. I've already set the positive intention.
Correct.
So you're now even more excited about the meeting. If I just said, hi, Ashdin, see you at 2 p.m., we're like, okay, that seemed very transactional. See you at 2 p.m. I mean, so in every form, that's a basic email. Another great one is on social media. How many people do wish you on social media? I mean, in Facebook, which hardly is active that days, but people get 500 wishes. On WhatsApp, 100 wishes, messages. How many people pick up the phone today? How many people get a postcard? I get a postcard every Christmas from 3 people till today. A postcard into is like unheard of. I can't forget those 3 people in my life. Those relationships are priceless. They send me a postcard for Christmas every single year. You can't forget that. That's something unique. So in fact, doing things of the old habits, if I call them old habits, of picking up the phone and making a call, when I call someone, they're like, Gautam, you're one of the few people who've called me today. Thank you so much for remembering my birthday. If I ask them a month later who, he said, oh, I don't know who wished me, but these 5 people who call me, I can't forget. Or if I don't, what I do is when I send a video on WhatsApp, sending a video, hi Ashdin, wishing you a very happy birthday, have an awesome day and look forward to catching up with you soon. Now, I've sent you a video, you've heard my voice, you've heard my energy, tonality, energy. I've had meaning in the wishes. It's not happy birthday Ashdin in a typed message where you get so many and it's lost. So whether you're communicating on social media, whether you're communicating on email, whether you're communicating on WhatsApp, whether you're in touch with someone, add meaning to the conversation. Make sure it's, slow down a little bit. Sometimes you say less is more is another phrase I love saying. It's like giving more meaning to a few people will add even more value to your life and their lives. So relationship building is really about going a little slower, adding more value, adding meaning, and being yourself, being in the moment, not about just completing the conversation and moving to the next one.
I love this. Slowing down,
Yes.
absorbing that conversation.
Right.
It's not like running from one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next. I think when you're doing that running from one thing to the next, people can actually sense it at the other end, saying that I'm not special anymore to this.
Correct.
This person. And I love this habit of sending a video that you mentioned right now. I think it's something all our listeners can pick up and start doing immediately.
Absolutely.
Right? And even Diwali wishes and stuff like that, right? Like, my God, I've stopped the auto download feature on WhatsApp because otherwise
everyone's using templates. This template, happy birthday template, this template. To me, I send either a voice note, a video, or I pick up the phone. Those are the 3 options. So I want to make sure I've connected verbally, visually, so that is a memorable. It's 1 minute of your time, but it's going to make a lasting impression on that friend. The emotional bank account, as I call it, or my dad calls it, the relationship capital and the emotional bank account you build with the people in your life, whether it's friends, with family, that is priceless. Money comes and goes in life. We all go through our ups and downs. We all go through, but a habit of building meaningful relationships and making them, count, it makes it memorable, and people will always be there for you.
Correct. I love that. Relationship bank account. This is like a relationship account. What about when you meet someone face to face?
Right.
How does that interaction go? What are things that you can think of when you introduce to somebody at an event or at a party?
Yeah, no, that's a great one. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time at a social event or even at a business event. At a business event, I'll give a quick example. When you go for a business event, I observe the different types of people. There are people just going there and distributing cards.
Yeah.
So that's
here,
and trying to get your card. It's very transactional. You don't even. That card is not going to be kept with me.
Not at all.
For me, my aspiration and habit that I have is I want to have 5 meaningful conversations when I go to an event. 5 or more, as Jack Canfield says, or more. We set the goal. It's not limit to 5. If you have 7, great. If you set 5, you might have 3 or 4. So 5 or more meaningful conversations, and that's embedded as a good habit in my wherever I go. Because then I'm consciously saying when I meet someone, I want to have a conversation. It's not like, hi, how are you? What's your name? What do you do? You try and learn a bit more about them. And building relationship is actually the same way in the sales process. It's about the best salespeople and the best relationship builders are people who ask questions and are great listeners. And I've learned that over time, that whilst I'm a great relationship builder, my area of improvement was asking more questions and listening more. Which is why I've also enjoyed the coaching experience, because otherwise I speak a lot more with energy, with excitement, and thought that way I'm building relationships. I may have obviously succeeded to some extent, But I've built more quality relationships by asking and listening. People, when they feel heard, they're like, this guy is awesome. Why? You heard them, you gave them time, you listened to them. That's what people want. And that's the best way when you go for a networking event, whether it's business or you go to a party, is, someone find a common connect is always useful if you go with someone.
Correct.
Or you have someone and they introduce you, hi Ashton, have you met with Soini, have you met with Anita, or have you met with Rahul? And one person connects and then, hi Rahul, how are you? Great, thanks. What are you up to? What do you do? The usual first opening questions. What are your hobbies? Think of 3, 4, 5 open-ended questions which allow them to reveal a little bit more about themselves than just my name, my company, and what I do in life.
Right.
And what are your hobbies? Have you watched any movies recently? It's not rocket science, but it's sometimes feeling like asking those little questions which help them reveal their passions, their interests, and then you'll see them smile. You'll see them excited. Why? Because they're talking about something they love doing.
Correct.
They're like, wow, I spoke about my favorite movie to this person I'm meeting for the first time. What a nice guy. I mean, it's as simple as that. But sometimes we consciously think, no, I don't know him so well. How can I ask him? It's not a personal question. What's your favorite movie? Or, what's your favorite book? Or where have you traveled to recently? Because those are emotional experiences. There's an emotion with a movie. There's an emotion with a book. There's an emotion with whatever you do in life. So getting people to talk about an emotional experience makes them feel connected to you, even if it's for the first time.
There's so many people who do this, right? Exactly what you're saying. There's no emotional connect.
Yeah.
People say that, Ashton, I don't like going for these networking events.
Yeah.
Because same questions get asked. How many times am I going to repeat? Who am I? What I do? Etc. 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 What my company does. I need to do something different. And I often tell them that why aren't you the one asking the interesting questions, right? Because we often wait for people to come and do that to
Absolutely.
us. But we are the people who need to start making that change in the world around us.
Absolutely.
Do you have favorite questions that you like asking?
I wouldn't know favorite questions, but some of the ones I mentioned to you just now, I do
Hobbies.
ask hobbies, your passions, and travel, because I find those are very easy, open-ended questions. And especially when you're meeting for the first time, I want it to be easy enough that they can respond. What's the latest movie you've watched? What are you watching on Netflix? Do you enjoy reading? Do you have a favorite podcast? Simple questions which are a little open-ended and you're likely to get a response as opposed to I'm not sure or I don't know. Open-ended, these 4, 5 questions. And then what happens, I listen attentively.
Right.
I'm listening attentively because when they reveal and they speak for 1 or 2 minutes, they're going to give you clues of saying, oh, that's interesting. What did you like about that movie?
Correct.
Or that's awesome. What was in that book that made you consider that's a book you'd recommend? So you then allowing
get a
it to
follow-up question.
Yes,
Right.
your follow-up questions comes from listening attentively, not about going to the next question and having that ready in your mind. So just 1 or 2 open-ended questions. In the answer, they're revealing more about themselves. We're able to ask a follow-up question and give them a chance to speak even more.
Right. And the most beautiful flows, even in podcasts, are like that, when one question leads into the next and automatically flows there.
Absolutely.
How do you maintain so many people? Like, do you have an Excel sheet? Do you have, I remember in the old days, we used to have these little flip things that used to have all the visiting cards
Yeah.
that were kept in. How do you maintain so many relationships?
It's a great question. How do you maintain it? I mean, in the professional world, I have a database of over 20,000 people who love reading, have attended events, people we met at conferences in the learning space. Having said that, then we bifurcate the list in where we've met them. But coming to the list of people I'm connected with, if I talk from a client's perspective, I actually, break up my lists in the business world like a flight. And I look at business models like a flight: first class, business class, economy. And I say that in the context of, obviously I've got to stay in touch with people to keep adding meaning to them. So I make sure that the lists are there so that, between me and the team, we make sure we connect at least once a month. And I want once a month call, some projects are once a year. And you got to stay in touch. You can't call them once a year for that project. That means you're only there for the transaction,
Interested only in that,
on
correct.
that business. So it's finding a way. And what I've said is you can find many ways. It's not only about calling them, because you don't want to just call and say the same question. Do you have any projects coming up? How can we add value? Some of them are active on LinkedIn. Some are active on Instagram. Like and comment the posts of your network. What I'm saying is have an emotional connect with your key people once a month. So I do maintain a list of example, 50 people in the professional world. In the personal space, I have groups of community. I live in a community here in Mumbai, so I have a WhatsApp group of that community. I have a friends group in Dubai, so I have that. And then let's say a Soho House. So these are like communities. And I really, maybe over time, have the community friends, because you also want to have, as I said, less is more.
Correct.
I want to be able to stay connected with friends. And then I have my school friends who I grew up in London.
You want meaningful relationships, not thousands.
Yes, exactly. So to me, there are, I may be well connected with a lot of people personally, professionally. Those are that's part and parcel of my life and my business. But in terms of friends or the customers, you keep a few really key ones who you can stay connected with and add value. So I sort of see them in more as communities for me. Like, my school friends is one community, Soho House is one, where I stay is another community, and then you have your family friends. So there are 4 sort of communities that you stay connected with, and you endeavor to try and connect at least once a month, either together or in some way, and the same in the professional world.
Last question on this particular topic.
Sure.
Do you have a habit of like looking at your contacts every day and messaging somebody? Like, is there a system that you follow?
It's a great question. I do, in the professional space, I do have a habit of looking at a particular list once a day and making sure that have I been in touch this month, so to prompt myself. And on the personal space, I do something similar on a weekend. When I'm on Saturday, Sunday, I say, who haven't I spoken to? My EA also has a habit of, which I learned from Marshall Goldsmith, but basically of a habit which I actually encouraged my dad to do this habit. I said, Papa, over the last, many years of your life, who are people who've brought you happiness, fulfillment, and he listed about 30, 40 people. He may have met 1,000 people, but I said, who are the 30, 40 that come to mind? So he made a list, and I said, I'd like you to speak to one person a day from that list. He started this a year ago. He said, Gautam, this has been the best, habit you've asked me to inculcate. The conversation, I'm speaking to someone who worked with me 40 years ago. I have not spoken to him, connected, how's his kids? He was so touched. He said, you've made my day. So sometimes we are being busy in our lives with what we're doing today. But reconnecting with people who've been a part of our journey was priceless. So 2 months back, my dad told me, I've been doing this for a year. We don't have to wait till I'm 70 plus, Gautam. How about you do the same habit? Yes, you're in your 40s. And I said, that's a great idea. So I spoke to 20 people in the last month. From school friends to others who have not been in touch with, but been a part of my journey.
Amazing.
Just called to say hi. They said this call for no agenda. Like normally said, what did you call for? Did you call for an event, a party, some news? I said, no, I called for no reason at all. If I have to give a reason, I called to connect with you and just check in with you.
Right.
Like I've never had a call like that. A call with no agenda at all, just to say hi, how are you? How's the family? What are you up to? That's it.
Agenda is called. I love it.
Priceless.
So it's such a lovely habit that you were talking about, like connecting with somebody that, is meaningful or gives you happiness. What are some of the other habits that you've learned interacting with these fantastic coaches and speakers?
Thanks, Ashdin. To me, from every speaker, we've worked with well over 50 speakers over the last 20 plus years. And, if I have to highlight a few, you take Marshall Goldsmith, for example. One of his habits, daily habits, is having someone call him up every single day and ask him 6 questions. And I asked him, I said, what questions are these? And he said, basically, you see, we are human beings at the end of the day. To create new habits is not something that happens very easily.
Correct.
We can get distracted, they can be disrupted, you could travel. There's multiple reasons. So she literally calls me up every day and asks me 6 questions. And at the end of the month, if I've performed well, then I can change some of the questions. But the questions will be asked to me again and again and again. So it's like having an accountability partner.
Correct.
Helping you do what you want to do. And with a bit of tough love, you sort of feel, okay, make this habit. So I inculcated this habit, in fact, the last 2 months. And, I have my EA call me every day. And she asked me, have you done your 15 minutes of meditation? Have you done your reading? Have you done your journaling? Have you done your exercise? And the other question is, have you called a friend or someone from your past who you've not spoken to in a long time? And it's amazing now, my meditation, my yoga, these habits have now really becoming habits where I'm feeling I'm more consistent, that the 2 or 3 days I may have missed, I'm feeling something's missing.
Right.
Because it helps me become in the right physical, mental, emotional state for the day. because your morning, and that's one of the biggest habits. When I actually interviewed about 20, 30 CXOs about 2 years back in the pandemic, I said, let me use the time to interview people. And one thing I asked them, I said, what is your morning routine? What is your day routine? And I asked a lot of open-ended questions. And the one message, when I reflected back on the transcribed notes of those interviews, all of them had an hour with themselves. They said that is something that's non-negotiable. I said, what happens in that hour? Whether you call it self-care, you call it self-love, I want time with myself. They could do an hour of meditation. They could do an hour of exercise. They could be doing 15 minutes of 3 different things. But it's doing something for yourself so that you are ready for the day. Every day you can plan, but there are going to be things that happen which are not planned. So you need to be in the best state of mind, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every way. And so the appointment with yourself is the most important appointment. I can only give you, Ashdin, what I have inside me. Now, if I've got turbulence inside me, I'm going to give you that. If I have stress inside me. So by doing, whether it's meditation, yoga, reading, music, whatever gives you happiness and fulfillment, it's not about having to do exercise every day. It's doing something for yourself every morning, so you are in the best state of mind for the day. And that came as a common habit amongst all the most successful leaders I interviewed.
Amazing. 1 hour a day for yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. So there are 6 questions. There's an hour a day. What are some of the other things that, like if you go through the list of speakers that you work with, what are some of the things that you pick?
Another great one was Jack Canfield, who's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and the Success Principle. One habit.
I love the Success Principle.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal.
I recommend it a lot to most of my friends and
in
people
fact,
ask me.
That's the book that my dad, with Jack Canfield, converted to a full book of magical book of affirmations with Jack, was based on the Success Principles.
Correct. I read that book as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Open to any page.
Absolutely. There's an
affirmation
affirmation for you. So one of the many habits that I learned from Jack Canfield was the power of asking. And I remember him saying, he said, by asking, at the end of the worst case response is a no. So you have a 50% chance of getting a yes. So, I've exercised power of asking next level. Obviously, you ask where you're comfortable to ask. And especially what I say, if I built an emotional bank account, I ask without any concern, because it's a relationship you're building. But when you ask with love and respect, it's amazing. And I'll give one, I call it simple example. I was with Jack Canfield and we were on a tour and we were across many cities. It was 2 a.m. and we had to be on stage, or he had to be on stage. We had to be at the event at 8 o'clock. And he said, Gautam, I'm just have no energy to iron my clothes. How will we get this done? Laundry is closed, this, that. I went and asked the staff, and I literally at 3 a.m. got our suits pressed and ironed. Wow. He said, Gautam, you take the power of asking to the next level. So it's really about your intent. And I asked with love and respect. And I said, I really want someone who's good in ironing to help us out with this thing. We're really exhausted. We've been on back-to-back travel. The person you asked with sincerity, with love, with respect, they were doing it happily. And he said, my God, I would think I have to, not. So it's a very simple example, but at any stage. So power of asking in every area of your life. Ask for advice, ask for help. And the magic 4 words I ask, I literally use the words, I need your help. Or, Ashdin, can you help me? People are here to help. So don't feel shy of asking. So that's one good habit I learned from Jack Canfield.
I think if you can ask for one thing from somebody every day, it just makes your life easier in asking and just getting the habit of asking.
Yeah, asking for help, asking for guidance, asking for advice, asking for a referral. Ask away, ask for references. When you're looking for something like a new trainer, a coach, a speaker, a movie, ask people. When you ask, you learn. We all have different strengths, different weaknesses. So to me, I love asking, because when asking, I also learn. I'm learning something new. I'm enhancing my skills, my knowledge. And the same way, I'm happy to help. When someone asks me, it's my pleasure to connect back and reciprocate, because it's a joy of its own.
Correct.
I helped a friend connect with someone. It's the biggest joy. I love connecting people.
In fact, on the topic of connecting, I forget which American president it was. There was one president that always said that I always ask for something from somebody as soon as I meet them. It could be as simple as, could you pass the salt? Because that small interaction created a deeper relationship than just, hi, what you're doing. So it was a very simple, subtle tool that he used about always asking for something. Like, can you help me with this? Can you pass something like that?
Yeah.
So that was one. So asking something, Jack Canfield. I think that's a beautiful.
Another one would be a gentleman called Ron Kaufman. He's based in Singapore. He's written the book Uplifting Service. One of the greatest speakers. We've hosted over 100 events with him, and service is something which is timeless. Everyone needs to constantly up their level of service. It's now technology involved, etc. What habit he inculcated with me was about, when things go wrong, that's a real test of how you respond. Most people feel a simple apology and a correction is good enough. He says when a problem happens, it gives you a unique opportunity to provide such a great recovery that the person actually relationship with you is even better than when the problem had not happened.
Amazing.
Now, not that we're asking for more problems, but in the sense it's a unique opportunity. So when, for example, if you're in a restaurant or you're on a flight or you're at a bank or wherever you're providing that experience, they could just say, sorry, I'll have that corrected, I'll have that adjusted. And that's the basic, that's expected. That's the minimum you do is apologize and correct it.
Correct.
But he will look for opportunities to do something far more than this. I had an experience, I went to a restaurant and they actually followed this. We had a indifferent experience with the food without going into details. We brought it to the attention of them. Now they immediately apologized. Obviously, that bill of that restaurant was completely waived. It was a given based on the circumstances, which was expected. But what did they do different? They said, we want to give you and your family and your friends the opportunity to come back to a restaurant again and give us the chance to show us the quality of food and the experience that we stand for. Mm-hmm. So they didn't just apologize and waive the bill of that event, which most people do in every area of life. They said, and they called me the next day. They sent us an email. They literally called, when is your next family occasion? They kept calling to give us that opportunity. It was my daughter's birthday coming up 2 months later. I booked a table for her and her friends, and they had a fantastic time. Now, I talk about that restaurant, which is an Arabic restaurant, and to my friends, it's a fantastic restaurant because when things are going well in your life, they're going well. When things don't go well, the way that is handled by that person, that client, that vendor, is there that my loyalty to that restaurant is now 10x than had I just had a regular meal, paid and left.
Correct.
And that's an example. So Ron Kaufman's habit is, he says, look for opportunities to provide even more value when something goes wrong. So your loyalty of the customer is even higher than had the problem not happened. So.
Amazing. So it's actually the problem has bonded you all instead of pushed you all apart.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I think service is something so critical that we all have to.
Correct.
What else?
I'd love to include my dad. While he's my dad, to me, I went through a very difficult time in the UK as a child where in school, I was bullied, I was teased. This is about when I was age 13. And I went to my dad and I said, nothing makes sense. No purpose, no direction, very few friends, nothing's making any sense, and I'm feeling very low. And the advice he gave me that time led to some 3 great habits. And, he said to me, son, life is a journey. It's not about the moment now. This too shall pass. And I said, okay. And he said, I'm going to give you 3 habits that if you apply these habits in your life, they will not only help you in this particular situation you're going through, they will help you in every situation in life. Would you like to know those habits? I said, yes, Papa, absolutely. He said, firstly, before I tell you, I want you to understand that change and challenges are constant for the rest of your life. Whether you're a successful businessman, you have a great career, you're affluent, you've got everything you have, change and challenges are constant. And if there's any example, COVID was there. Whether you're a billionaire, millionaire, or a regular person or a professional, whatever level, status, whichever culture, wherever you live in the world, it brought everyone, we're all one. So that was a reality that change and challenges are constant.
Correct.
So the 3 habits he told me is surround yourself with the right people. People who inspire you, uplift you, encourage you. So surround yourself as a habit to surround yourself with good quality people. Continuously learn. Learning is a lifetime journey. It's not just about school and education. Now we learn from podcasts, we learn from, LinkedIn posts, we learn from books, we learn from, content that we curate from conversations we have with people. So surround yourself with the right people. And secondly is continuously learn. And the 3rd habit, he said, most importantly, is take action. A lot of us read books, we attend seminars, and then we go back to our lives. Take new action every time you have a learning experience, because new action creates new value and new experiences and new progress in life. So don't take it lightly. So these three things I've applied wherever I am. If I have a challenge, I'm like, okay, who do I need to call? Who do I need to connect with? What do I need to learn? And what action do I need to take to come out of this challenge?
Correct.
And the same way, if it's a positive situation, I mean, these are three things that I really learned from my dad, which helped me in that circumstance to, change the kind of people I spend time with at school and had better quality friends. Those friends I made post that experience are still friends till today, who I'm going to be meeting in London in November here, 30 years later.
Amazing. And these are simple habits, even
Absolutely.
for, like you said, you're 13 years old, right? And you could pick up these things. They're so simple to follow and incorporate into your life. But like you said, no action, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Can you share one more person that,
One more person, probably I could think of Brian Tracy.
All right.
He's written many books. He's world renowned. He had written a book called Eat That Frog.
Correct.
And every day we have our to-do lists and things we must do and get done. And to me, Eat That Frog is exactly what he means. He said, do the toughest task first. Very, very easy to say. I look at a task and we say, okay, these 7, 8 tasks for today, I'll do them first. And there's that one task which is like either a presentation or a difficult conversation. I'll say, I'll do that later. And we end up procrastinating.
Correct.
So I inculcate that. I look at the list of tasks I have every morning, or the week or that month. And I say, what is the biggest one? And do my best to really focus on that. And I've seen the moment I do have the habit of applying the biggest task first, everything moves very, very quickly on the smaller tasks. And then I have time for myself or for exploratory conversation to other things. And it removes a lot of pain and, when this big task is still pending,
Correct.
It takes up mind space.
Right.
Once you've relieved that, you have so much mind space for creativity, for inspiration, and where your energy should be, not feeling the guilt of I got this pending big task to be done. So in summary, the action is, eat that frog, do your biggest task every day first, and allow yourself the pleasure of enjoying the other tasks and having time to think of other things as well. So that would be one thing that I really learned from Brian Tracy.
If I did this, the rest of the stuff is easy, right? It's just like piece of cake now.
Yeah,
onward.
absolutely.
But I love all these coaches. They're fantastic. I've read almost all their books.
Yeah.
And what is it like to interact with them in person?
I'm really grateful, to be honest, firstly and foremost. It's to spend time with these people. Some people meet them once in a lifetime. To spend time with all of them and literally break bread with them, invited most of them to my home. It's been priceless. You get to know who they are behind the scenes, who they are off stage. One learning from many of them is many of them are introverts, which surprised me. That they are on stage speaking to 1,000 people. They come off stage. They're not comfortable in a crowd, quite a few of them. And so realizing that, there's always a story behind a story. Nice to know them, their families, their own habits. What was their journey to becoming a celebrity speaker? They all started just like you and me. They may have written a book, they wrote another book, and they wrote another book, and eventually one book really became, a game changer and put them on the map. So it really is one book that could change your life. So books is one example. It could be a habit, it could be a movie. It's one person. So that was great to get to know them personally, professionally, and the biggest learning from them is the conversations that you have on flights and outside the training room per se.
Right, exactly. Because they're known for this aspect, but there must be
Absolutely.
so much stuff that they're doing, like you said, behind the scenes. Like he keeps saying, habits are all subconscious, right? They don't even know that they're doing it, perhaps.
Correct.
But we can pick it up when we are sitting and talking to them. Are there certain, underlying themes? Are there certain things that all of them end up doing every day that you're like, oh, so maybe is this one recipe for their success? Is this something that, unites all of them together?
Yeah, to me, one other common thing that I realized for all of them is that, for example, the speakers in the US, if I use them as an example, is, July and August is they lock out for time with the family and me time. Christmas, Thanksgiving, they do that. So they compartmentalize those times for family time. They also compartmentalize time for reading, journaling, writing blogs, white papers. So and really upping their skills. So they don't feel that whilst they're already successful and they're sought after authors, speakers, coaches, they are constantly reinventing themselves, times are changing. The content of what they spoke last year needs to be updated. So they do spend a lot of time. I'd say 25% of the time is on reinventing themselves, sharpening their saw, understanding the latest trends. So they're always making sure that their content is relevant and timely. It's not because I'm so and so big speaker, I'll just do a cut and paste speech and it'll be fine.
Correct.
They want to give an example from what's happening in the world now. They want to refer to the hybrid world in today's times, or refer to the recent pandemic, or the future of work, etc. So what I respect is that all of them make time to understand what's happening in the world now and up their skills. So that's something that I appreciate. They take time for family and friends. They have time for reinventing themselves, and then 50% of the time is actually in coaching, speaking, training, and delivering events.
And are they crazy busy? Like I hear some of them like do, for example, there's a coach who we had on the Habit Coach podcast, and he was saying that he does one speaking engagement every day, right? 365. And it was crazy to think about just how busy that must be and how much energy that takes to be able to do that. Are they like super busy people?
It varies. It's a subjective question. I mean, there are those who, if I can say, in their 30s or 40s, where they don't have families, so they've got that liberty to really go all out. And then there are those in their 50s and 60s who have kids and they want to make sure they have a work-life balance. What I will say is, because of the virtual world, they're able to do a lot more. Like, Marshall Goldsmith today has consciously said that I would like to do more virtual engagements. And there have been days when he's done 3 events in a day. He's doing a morning event in the cities, and he's doing an afternoon event in Europe, and he's doing an evening event in India, because the evening or rather, his late evening is, our early morning, or vice versa. So they're able, because of the virtual world and the value of having their presence, they're able to do 2 or 3 events in a day.
Correct.
Whereas the physical world, they can do, one event means 3 days of time, a day of travel, a day of the event, and a day going back. So they're very reluctant. When they do travel, they like to club events together. So I definitely, the virtual world has definitely increased the number of engagements. But I think it's each one's choice on their aspiration and hunger. I know some speakers who just do 10 events a year. They're very, very, very premium, and they do only 10 events a year. So, and if you want to book them, you literally need to give them a reason why your event should be one of the 10. Now, that's one extreme. They're very successful speakers. There are others who are happy to do keynotes back to back all year round, and they may do 80 to 100 events a year.
Wow.
So I guess
How do you maintain that energy? Like, it's crazy, right? Like you were talking about reaching the hotel at 3 o'clock in the morning and having a speaking engagement at 8, and these things take energy. Have you learned any tips and tricks on maintaining energy?
Well, I mean, I was with Stephen Covey, who's the author of Speed of Trust, the son of the great Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits. And in his tour between Dubai, Mumbai, and Hyderabad, I was just astounded that the schedule was pretty hectic, and he still made time to go to the gym. Every hotel, he asked me, "Where's the gym? Where's the spa? Where's the gym?" I said, "When are you fitting that in?" He said, "I'm getting up at 5 in the morning." I said, "You're sleeping at 11, you get up at 5, we're going on stage?" He said, "Yeah, it's non-negotiable." And he said exercise and going to the spa in between every hotel he was at was non-negotiable to help him be, in the best state of mind. So I saw that as one habit. And that, even Brian Tracy, I remember, he would do laps at any pool. Every city we went to, he would find the pool and do his laps. Marshall Goldsmith does not travel with any check-in luggage. We talk of declutter or less is more. The guy could travel for 2 weeks without any check-in luggage. So he's got it down to
Everything cabin bag.
Everything cabin bag. It's 2 cabin bags, but all there. And he will do the needful every 5 days and get the clothes dry cleaned and whatever it is required. But he says, I don't want check-in, and I have check-in bags when I'm with him. And while I'm waiting for my bags at any airport or with him, or if we're at check-in at a hotel, he's constantly walking. He says, "Gautam, you take care of it. Let me know when I'm needed, if I need to sign something or we need to move." In the meantime, he's just walking, and walking. So even in an event, he constantly walks around the room. So he's doing 15, 20,000 steps a day consciously wherever he is. He's not waiting. If he's waiting for a taxi or an Uber, he would have done 1,000 steps while waiting for the Uber. So he said the Uber took 10 minutes. I did my 1,000 steps. The bags took half an hour. I did 2,000 steps. I'm waiting, at the seminar, he does 10,000 steps in a seminar. He's not just standing on stage. So to me, movement is what they all definitely insist on and make time for.
Wow, fantastic. I love this conversation. So much to learn from, people who are doing this for a living, so great at it.
Absolutely.
And like reading the book is one thing, but personal experience is something completely different.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, it's something to me I continuously learn.
I envy you sometimes. I'm like, you're meeting these amazing people. Wow. Gautam, how can people who are listening to this podcast connect with you? How can they continue this conversation with you and build a relationship?
No, thanks, Ashton. I mean, to me, when it comes to online, my favorite sort of platform is LinkedIn. So, follow me on LinkedIn. It goes by my name, Gautam Ganglani. So follow me on LinkedIn. I share consistent posts of my experiences, of people I meet, of books I read, my favorite quotes, things that have impacted my life, challenges I've been to. I try and share as much as I can from a learning experience, my learnings, because my goal is to inspire you, because, some people feel alone in certain situations. So by being a little vulnerable and sharing my experiences, my learnings, and the people I meet, I do that consistently on LinkedIn, so you could enjoy that content, engage on that content. And I'm always available for a virtual coffee.
I love it.
So you can connect with me again there and click on the link, and it'll be a pleasure to connect with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Been an absolute pleasure, Ashton. Thanks once again for having me, and look forward to staying closely connected.
My pleasure. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, give us a rating. It really helps with people discovering the podcast. If you like podcasts like this, check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can also watch all the episodes on the Habit Coach Awesome 180 YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can also reach out to me. I am Ashdin Doc at Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with me on my website, awesome180.com. You can also check out my 2 new books, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, and the second, The Book of Good Habits for Kids. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach.
IVM.